Hello, this is Katie. Welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're a return visitor, thanks for coming back. If you're a new visitor, then please do check that subscribe button and click the bell that says all, and you will never miss one of my videos. So today we're going to be making a fidget sparkle or sparkle fidget pendant. So I've been wearing these sort of all over December, and I just find them really nice to kind of fidget with, and that's why I've called it a fidget pendant. And you can wear it nice and long, so I've put them all on long chains, and it just makes this really nice sort of a touch of sparkle, but it's got that sort of tactile feel to it, and you just want to play with it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to make this one again today, but what you can do, because of the way that I've done it, because it'll make sense as I go along, we extend towards the bottom, you can actually make this into a little Christmas tree design if you wanted to. So I'm using 6mm Bicones, and it's kind of like a Christmas tree. I've got a little brown one at the bottom, red one at the top, so, and it's just based on the colour is that, but any colours look absolutely gorgeous. In fact, multicolour would look amazing as well. So what are we going to need? So it's a nice basic tutorial. We're going to be doing lots and lots of wrap loops, so if you want to perfect your wrapped loops first, I do have another video that is basically just wrap loops, and it'll show you how to make a perfect wrapped loop. We are going to be using 6mm bicones, so crystal bicones, 6mm, so that a 6mm is the measurement from hole to hole, so top to bottom. So that's the size we're using, and you actually need, for one of these, for this size, you need 28 bicones. Now if you are doing a different colour top and bottom, you would need 26, and two different colours, one for top, one for bottom. You're also going to need 4 crimp tubes, crimp beads, or very tiny spacer beads. That's just to elongate it and give it that really nice undulation as it comes down. You're going to need a couple of jump rings. I've got a smaller one, a slightly larger one. They can be the same, but we're just going to pop this over his head. So the small jump ring is just to join the chain together because we don't need a clasp, and the larger one is for the bail, like this one here. We're also going to need one standard head pin. So standard head pin, just your basic head pins, and that is 5 centimeters long. That's all you need. That is the central core, and just make sure it's got a decent sized bobble on the bottom. And then the other thing that you're going to need is featherweight head pins. Now it is quite important that you use featherweight and not standard, because the fine wire will create just a tiny little bit of, each time we put one on, it's just going to create a tiny bit of length. If we use standard, it's going to be too bulky, and you're just going to end up with a very long, very sparse looking little cluster. So a featherweight head pin, they don't have to be this long if you wanted to make your own, but a featherweight head pin is a very fine gauge wire, so anything 0.4mm, which I believe is your 26 gauge. If you're confused with sizes, because obviously I'm from the UK, I use UK terminology, there is a full list down below of all the conversions, so don't worry about that. So just check out the description. So we want a nice bobble on the end and a fine head pin, and we are going to need at least 26 of those. So is that everything? Yep. So we just go, oh, we can leave some chain as well, so just chain or cord, whatever you want to go with. So we're going to need basic tools, so we're going to be using flush cutters or side cutters. You're going to be using your round nose pliers, either flat nose or chain nose pliers. Chain nose is a definite, flat nose you might just use on the first round, but I'll explain as we go along. So we're going to start making the first row. Believe it or not, these are in rows. So we're going to start making this first row, and then it'll become very simple as we go along once you realise the technique and the different stages of this. So let me just move a few things out of the way and we'll get started. So the key to this design is actually For each level, so we've got 4 different levels of, 4 different rows of these. We're going to make this little section here where the wraps go from a wrap loop, different sizes. So for this first section, I've just got, I hope you'll be able to read this, I've got a little sticker. So for the first one, we're doing 8 bicones, and they are all 5mm space. So when I say space, I mean for this one I'm going to use my flat nose pliers because I know that's 1/2 centimetre, it's 5mm. So I've got my bicone all the way up right to the end. I've just put this in for my space, and then I'm going to bend that away. So there you go, that is the space, this little section here. So then we're going to make our wrapped loop. So we've got this little bit of wire. In fact, I'm just going to move that out of the way for a second to see a bit better. There we go. We're going to go over to our round nose pliers, and we want to be right on the very tip. So the side that I'm holding is this long side, but I'm holding it as close to as possible to that bend. So if I put that down, you can see I'm not holding where this little straight bit is here. I'm holding this side. Then you're going to take your wire and you're going to bring it all the way over the top. So you've basically got this. Then you're going to change positions of your pliers. So you need to change it around in your hand just to give you more space to do things. And then you're going to take it over or under, whichever feels more comfortable, until you've got this nice loop. So we want this loop, and we want it to sit like a lollipop, not like a P, as in the letter P. We want it to sit on the top. Then we're going to hold on with our chain nose pliers to that loop. And then be careful, because this is very fine wire. We're just going to very gently wind this down. So take your time with it. It's a fine wire. You don't want to be pulling on it because it will distort the little bar that we're wrapping around. If it feels like it's not getting tight enough, just use your pliers. Always think of your pliers as another pair of hands, just to get things into the right space for you. So we want to wrap all the way down to the actual bicone. Might be able to get another wrap or two in there. We want that bicone to be nice and secure. There we go. So we've wrapped all the way down there, so you can see this is the space. We want 5mm of wraps, so we want 8 of these with 5mm spaces. And once you've got to this point, you can go in with your flush cutters or side cutters and snip off the end, and then make sure that you are nipping in that little tail, and that's one done. So I'm going to do that once more, and then I'm going to go through all the different sizes for the next ones as well. So we need to get our headpin nice and straight, pop on our 6mm bicone crystal or gemstone or any sort of bead. It's up to you. So if you haven't got flat nose pliers, you can use your chain nose pliers and go down to where you can see that's about 5mm. And then we're going to make that little bend away, and then we swap over to our round nose pliers, holding as close to that point as possible. And then right at the tip of our pliers, we want little loops. We don't want big loops. Reposition your pliers. You can see I've just turned those around in my hand, taken this wire across. Don't try and wrap it with the round nose pliers in. It makes it harder to keep everything nice and neat. By popping your pliers right across the loop and using sort of quite far down on your pliers, you've got more strength. That will give you the best hold of that loop. I mean, you don't want to be crushing it, but you're just holding it. And then we're just going to wrap around nice and steady. Don't wrap over the top of previous wraps. If it looks like it's going a little bit squiff, just take it back. Make sure you're happy. Use those pliers. as you need them and just wrap nice and gently all the way down. It's not easy to wrap a fine wire, so don't worry if you need to just kind of play around with it, have a little wiggle with it, and just get everything as nice and neat as possible. If you don't get these perfectly neat, it's not the end of the world, because these are going to sit on the inside, so don't worry about it, but you do want them as neat as you can. So I'm happy with that, and I can take my side cutters and snip off that end, and then just go in with my chain nose pliers, and nibble that in, and there we go. So you need to keep those ones in a little pile all together. So now we're going to move on to the other sizes. So as we go on, we are going to make the ones that we've just made. We're going to make 8 of those with the 5mm space. So this is those there. Then you're going to go on and you're just going to do the exact same thing, but you're going to make a 4mm space. So if you went here the first time, you're just going to go up a little bit to the more narrower part and go for another 7 using that space. And make sure you're keeping them separately, because this is quite important for the design. Then you're going to make 6 of them with a 3mm space. Then you're going to make 5 of them with a 2mm space. So you can see those ones have got a really tiny little space, and then we've got slightly bigger here, and then slightly bigger with a 4mm space, and then these are our longest ones with that 5mm space. So that's the prep that you're going to do. This I've got it all set out, so make sure you've got it all nice and separated and you're ready to go. So I'm actually only going to need 2 of those, and then I've got everything ready. Also, these boards are absolutely fantastic for if you're doing something like this and you need to kind of separate things out. Great for necklaces, which is what they are designed for, and you can put all your things. But when you're just working on a flat mat, you actually need to kind of find a way to stop things rolling around. So these are absolutely great. So these are also from Relax and Craft, and if you would like to purchase one, you can click the link below. I am affiliated with them, but I absolutely adore everything that she brings to us, and they're really, really cheap. So I'm not going to say price just in case the price changes over the years, but they're really, really good. So grab one while you can. They also do, just while I've remembered, a bracelet board. So those are absolutely fantastic. I will make a bracelet at some point using this so you can see how it's used, so you can sort of design everything. It's amazing for the design process. Anyway, let's get back. So what we're going to do is I'm going to move this to the side just so you can see what I'm doing here. We're going to take our standard head pin at the full length of 5 centimeters. Now we need to be sort of very careful as we're loading these onto here, because they kind of need to spiral around. So we're going to start with 1 bicone, just straight on there. We're going to space that out a little bit using one of our crimp beads or a little seed bead or something, just something tiny that will go on there and it'll just give it that lift. Now we're going to go in with our 8 5mm ones, and as we put them on, we want them to circle round. So you can see I've got one there, spiral around, sorry. I'm going to make sure that one sits next to it, and so on and so forth. So we're going to keep popping them on, keep a nice tight grip of it, because if it drops, you've got to sort them all out again. So you can see how that is just nicely spiraling around there. This is why we need nice fine wire for these, because otherwise there'd be too much length building up on the actual main head pin. So just watching what you're doing all the time and making sure that you get them nice and spiraled around. I understand that's quite hard to see on the camera, but There we go, they're all spiraled around, and I'm happy with how all of those are sitting. So they've just spiraled around. And did I just move that one? That one should be over there. There we go. Right, now I'm happy. Right, so now I just need to pop on an extra crimp bead. So we just grab another one of our crimp beads or crimp tubes, pop that on, and that's just going to lift up a little bit, and we're going to do the same process. So we're going for the 7 4mm ones now, and again we're just going to keep spiraling those around in the same way that we did the previous row. And as you can see, this is just going to build up nice and quickly. Don't go too fast though, because you don't want to drop it, and just keep them all nicely in line. So I'm just going to get all these loaded on. Every time you finish a row, you're going to add a crimp tube, but not after the final row. So I'm going to load all these ones on. So the 7 4mm crimp tube, then the 6 crimp tube, then the 5, and I'll meet you back there. Okay, so now I've got everything on there. I've got a crimp tube between each layer. I'm not going to put a crimp tube at the very top. We're just going to add an extra bicone just to top it off. And we've got this lovely shape to it. Can you see the shape? It's very hard to see when I'm trying to hold it downwards, and they will all move around beautifully. So let's get to the finishing off bit. So we're going to pop our chain nose pliers nice and close to the top there. You can see the shape a little bit better now. I'm holding it like this. And then we're just going to leave about 1 millimetre before, just like a tiny little gap, just to give us a little bit of room just to bend this away. So I'm just going to bend it right away. So I've got a right angle right on top of that bicone. Then I'm going to cut this down to around about 1 centimetre. So I'm leaving about 1 centimetre on. And then you're just going to take your round nose pliers, pop them right at the very tip of your wire. I've come a little bit of a way down, so about 1/3 down on my pliers maybe. And then you're just going to start winding that back towards the top, and you'll end up with a nice loop on the top. Now that's nice and secure now. You could make this into a bag charm as well, just thinking. So that would be really nice as a bag charm too. So to connect it to your chain, you are going to just open up your jump ring, your possibly larger jump ring, but as long as your chain will go through, it's fine. So we open up a jump ring by holding it with your less dominant hand at one side, so whether you're left or right handed, and then you open it just like so, just a little bit, and that will, and always use pliers as well, don't be tempted to use your fingers. And then to close it, we give it a nice wiggle to line it up really nicely together like so. So that's ready to attach to. You could have it as a key ring, you could have it as a bag charm, but I have got some chain here, and all I'm going to do is thread that chain through. Thread that chain through. Find the length that you want it to hang as a pendant. I want it very long, probably not quite as long as this, but I don't want to cut this piece of chain because I've already got one cut for it. And then you're just going to, because it's going to bob straight over your head, you are going to use another jump ring. Open that one up, just the same as we did previously, and then just pop each end of your chain onto the jump ring, and your chain is fastened nice and neatly, and that will just bob straight over your head, and you have got a really beautiful fidget pendant piece of jewellery that you are going to enjoy wearing, and it's going to be sort of stress relief as well, because it's just got that nice fidget motion to it. So like I said, you can do that exact same design in Christmas tree colours if you wanted to, so like so, and then you can have that for Christmas. But if you don't want it for Christmas, you want it all year round, or you just want whatever colour you like, you can just, I really like this one, I love the colour of this one, it's like a goldeny colour. So find out all those bicones that you've got probably in your stash that you've sort of acquired because they're so beautiful and sparkly but not quite knowing what to do, and get making a fidget pendant. Thank you so much for watching. Any other details that you need to know will be underneath the video in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, click the bell, select all, and you will never miss one of my tutorials. I will see you all again soon.